So in the previous videos, we talked about dynamic client registration. Now there's also another spec which talks about dynamic client registration management. And the reason why this spec exists is because dynamic client registration, so the previous RFC, RFC 7591, only covers how to register like an application, but it doesn't cover like how to manage an application. So meaning like reading the current configuration, updating the current configuration, and even deprovisioning the current configuration. And this is like what this RFC is about. So this one is about managing like the application dynamically. And the way this works is you first register like your application dynamically at the client registration endpoint. So this is like something, or the URL you can discover in the authorization service metadata. And what you get back is actually a registration client URI. So this is the URL that you can use to manage the application, and some form of access token. And it is very important to know that it's not expected that the client is discovering this client configuration endpoint dynamically, but it should return it like in the client registration endpoint, like or in the client registration endpoint's response. So once you register your application, you store this token, you store this URL, and then if you want to change it, you can just say, hey, I want to, for example, make a GET request to this client configuration endpoint. Yeah, so this UI you get here, and then you get like the current configuration back. You can also say, well, I want to update like this whole thing. So you make a put request and update the values. For example, I don't know, you might say, I don't like the name of my application, so I'm going to update this. Bear in mind that you have to send the full object. It's a put request, not a patch request. So it's not like it's just patching the individual fields that you send, but you have to send the whole object again. And you can even deprovision it by sending like a delete request. And the important thing is that you always send this registration access token that you received from here as a bearer token. And the initial request to the client registration endpoint, as we covered before, might also be protected by some initial access token, although it's not recommended for interoperability reasons. Or you might also need to send like a software statement. But this is something we already covered in the dynamic client registration protocol. Yeah, so this thing basically allows you to manage the application dynamically. So it adds these things like getting information, updating, and deleting. And yeah, it basically complements the previous spec. Cool. So that's it pretty much. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.